I've had my 2024 Model 3 Performance for a little over 7 months now, and I wanted to quickly do an update on what I thought, having my first electric car, what I like, what I don't like. Let's get into it. Let's go. Roll the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Sergi J, and yes, we are still in 4K. Now, this is a video that I've been wanting to do for a while. I just haven't really had the time. I have, basically a free Saturday, so I wanted to go ahead and quickly do this before the year ends. As I mentioned earlier before the intro, I have had my 2024 Model 3 Performance since May 25th of this year. I'm shooting this on December 21st, so a little over 6 months, almost 7 months fully. And I do have some thoughts on it. Now, I can tell you, this was my very first electric car. Prior to this, I owned nothing but gas cars for the 20 or so years that I've had my driver's license. And I can tell you, I had never driven an electric car prior to this. I wanted to basically reserve my initial impressions on an electric car, basically for when I bought my own. So that's what I'm going to be basing this off of. Now, of course, I've had this car, and, when I first got this car, should I say, I was one of the first. I guess I picked this up on the very first day this performance model became available. Now, so there was someone who actually went ahead and they got their Model 3 Performance early, somewhere in California, I want to say. I don't believe that was supposed to happen because there was like a firmware update that they were waiting for before they handed these cars out to, owners. So that guy was lucky. So I had to wait until May 25th, which I want to say was Labor Day weekend, or excuse me, Memorial Day weekend. I got my days mixed up. Yeah, Memorial Day weekend. And because of that, it was actually perfect because I picked it up on Saturday of a 3-day weekend. That was pretty nice. And that's actually when I want to say I did my initial impressions video as well. And when I did the initial impressions, I had nothing but good things to say about the car. Since then, that has mostly maintained the same. I can tell you there's some things. Let me go ahead and, it's a little too bright in here. It's mostly maintained the same. I can definitely tell you that. There are some things, unfortunately, that I did have to have fixed from, Tesla directly. But other than that, it's been smooth sailing. So as far as what I could tell you what I do like, and overall the 6, almost 7 months that I've owned this, I'll go ahead and I'll start off with everything good, and then we'll get to the bad at the end. So as far as good, mainly, obviously, as you know, this is a tech channel. Primarily, I do a lot of things like that. I also do car videos as well. So being a tech enthusiast myself, that has actually been my number one favorite thing of owning this car, is that when you buy most cars, you're buying the car basically, and that's what you're going to get is the day that you take it off the lot. Except, unless if you obviously were to do performance aftermarket parts, whether it be performance, suspension, wheels, things like that. But as far as everything from a perspective of, I guess you could say like the electronics that the car comes with, you're never really going to get any updates. With the Model 3 Performance, I've gotten several updates since it actually came out. And when I say updates, it's been updates to the full self-driving. They've had updates, to the actual I guess you could say the operating system of the car. There's been a lot of changes that have happened. And it's actually made it, an enjoyable experience because, anytime an update comes out, you get, myself being a techie, I get very excited just knowing that there may be new features. Like I could tell you since, owning the car, there's been new features to where, for example, the HVAC system when I first got the car, it seemed like everything was all jumbled and all over the place. Now that they've updated it, they've actually made it to where it's all pretty standard. I'll go ahead and I'll pull it up. Let me go ahead and flip this over here. So before, I can tell you, and I don't know how well this is picking up. I do have an ND filter on here, so it might show up a little weird. But before, when I first got the car, it wasn't like this with all the buttons the way that they are. Everything was kind of jumbled. So pretty much to where, you had everything all over the place. Now it's basically all in the same spot. So it makes it easier. Now that definitely is cool, very helpful because obviously, when everything is controlled through the screen, it makes it easy from when you're driving. It makes it easy to go ahead and find everything that you need, whether it be turning on the heater in the back, the AC in the back, the defroster, the defogger, whatever you want to call it. That's helped. I do have something that I may actually touch on later that I added to the car, I guess you could say, to help that. So feature-wise, that's been great because you do get new features, new software updates. Now, I haven't gotten the new holiday update that Tesla has promised yet. I don't know if they're actually just waiting to push that out. I can tell you I did get the latest FSD, which is, I want to say, 13.2, which is pretty good. I tried that. If you guys want to see, FSD videos of me doing that, I can put a camera up there and we can just go for a ride. Go ahead and let me know in the comment section if that's something you'd be interested in. But from as far as update perspective, it's been great. Updates on FSD have been awesome. When I first tried FSD, I got the free trial because, when you get the new Tesla, you get a trial for, I want to say it's a month. And that trial, it was promising. It was definitely pretty cool, because obviously when you have a regular car, you don't get full self-driving, supervised even. You don't get full self-driving. You get cruise control, and that's about it. So the full self-driving, the first time I tried it was a little bit iffy. I could tell you I tried it, and that pretty much where I live off of a freeway exit that pretty much curves and kind of, I guess you can say forks into two lanes. And my car at the fork, when I first started using FSD, would always come to almost a complete stop. Now, there is not a stop sign, there's not a red light, no light system there, so that was actually pretty dangerous. When that happened, I did have to take over immediately. In the months since having FSD, that has changed. It now gets through that, I guess you could say the fork perfectly. With FSD 13, it's been pretty awesome. Pretty much you don't really have to do anything. You can type in where you're going, or you can look up where you're going now, and you don't even have to put it in park or anything. You literally just tap the screen. I'll show you what I mean. You literally tap the screen here, and right there, once you tap that, you're going. It unlocks for you. It puts it from park to drive, reverse, whatever position you're in. It'll automatically do that for you, so that part is great. And then as far as, other features as well, and I'm sure you've seen, other YouTubers that have uploaded this as well, but you do also get the actual smart summon now, which is pretty cool. Actual smart summon, say you're at a store, you pretty much say you have a lot of groceries or you have a big box or something, you don't want to walk out to your car fully. You can pull up FSD, or your Tesla app, should I say, excuse me. You can click on summon. You hold the button basically once you've locked in your location. You press the button, which is like forward, backwards, or whatever. And once you do that, the car by itself will come to you. That's obviously, it's a little sketch watching it for the first time, but it's worked. Every time I've tried to do it, and every time I've used it, whether I've been at the grocery store, crowded stores. I haven't gone to Costco like you see some of these other reviewers. I don't go to Costco personally, so that's not a store you'll see me go to. But I've tried other stores, during the holidays. Obviously, everything is very crowded. And it's worked nonstop, so that's been awesome. And, that's a convenient feature. It's kind of like a party trick for after the first few months of trying it. It becomes a party trick because, obviously you're not going to use it very often. I'm sure there's people that use it pretty often. Myself, I think it's an awesome feature to have. Not necessary, but it is still cool that the company is pushing these out. Because, again, outside of the monthly subscription fee that I pay, it's not something that you're paying, an upgrade fee for every time that they push out like a package. It's just a monthly fee, and they're going to continuously update it. If you basically purchase the FSD outright when it first came out, or when you first bought your car, it's a one-time fee, and you're pretty much getting updates for life, to my understanding. So, software and the updates has been great. Now, obviously, waiting for the Model 3 Performance was the biggest thing because, they did have the Highland Refresh, which is a nice car. It's identical to this outside of a few different things, the seats being one of them. But the performance is what I waited for, and I waited for the performance because I do like fast cars, and it has not disappointed in that regard. I can tell you this is the fastest car that I've ever owned. I've had a few tuned cars before, a few full bolt-ons, things like that, but none of them have been as quick as this. 0 to 60 in 2.9. I'm a bigger dude, so I don't know if it does that personally with me behind the wheel, but I have seen people that do 2.9. Some have gotten lower than 2.9. With, certain tires and suspension modifications, things like that. So that's actually been a cool feature, as far as speed, because it's definitely reliable, it's consistent, and, anytime I have it charged to 80% all the way to 20%, I feel like I'm still getting the same performance. Now, I understand it's not going to be as quick when you're closer to the battery draining, but it's not really too noticeable. I can be honest with you on that. So that's been great. Anybody who has been a doubter, as far as, I guess you could say, electric cars, anytime they get in this car for the very first time, I get on the gas pedal, they have the same reaction that I do, and that's smiling and laughing at the same time like you're a kid in a candy store. And that's an honest opinion from a lot of people when they first get in this car, just because, they're not expecting the performance or the power that comes from this because it's electric, and most people don't associate these cars outside of the Model Plaid with that kind of performance. So that's been great. I haven't had any issues with the performance. Now, I would like to, and I know it's probably not going to happen because I don't think it's happened to any other previous Model 3 Performance. I guess you could say prior to this. I would like to see if, you know, like Tesla kind of did like the, I guess you could say like the speed boost that they did with the regular Highlands. I would like to see that for a performance, just, you know, possibly make it quicker. I know for obvious purposes or obvious reasons, because obviously at that point they'd be kind of edging towards the Model S and the Model X. They're probably not going to do that. But Tesla, if you're watching this, I know there's a lot of Model 3 performance owners who would be interested in that. But as far as speed, definitely not let down with the performance to this car. Handling, it handles very well. The adaptive suspension is pretty awesome. You know, as far as, you know, mostly I myself will drive this car in the sport mode. But, you know, if I feel if I'm on a road that's pretty bumpy, or if I want more of like a luxury car feeling, then I go ahead and I switch it over to just the standard. Let me see what it's called. It's actually, yeah, standard. Ride and handling. And when you switch it to standard, really all those bumps that you're feeling before, you really can't feel them anymore. It's riding like a very smooth car, and you're still getting the speed performance. That's great, because obviously you at that point you kind of get like a combination of luxury and performance. That's awesome. Now, I do have some plans for the wheels and suspension to this, so go ahead and stay tuned for that, because, you know, that is coming. You know, we're in winter now, so I'm not going to go ahead and switch out any suspension or wheels for that matter, but that should be coming summer or spring of 2025. So go ahead and, of course, hit that like, hit that subscribe button to see what we have coming next. So that has been great. Performance, definitely, you know, it leaves nothing to be desired with that for what you pay. You know, I've seen other videos, and I'm pretty sure you guys have as well. When you compare this car to other cars in the price range, or other cars that this would be compared to, like let's say a BMW M3 or even an M4, for the price to, I guess you can say price to value, you're getting a much better value with the Model 3 Performance than like a BMW M3, M4, because those are much more expensive cars. And the M4, yes, is a little bit quicker than this, but I mean, an M4, for example, the M4 Competition, I believe is what I saw this go up against. An M4 Competition is like a $120,000 car. This car, after the $7,500 rebate, is less than like 50,000. So I mean, you really can't compete with that. There's no other car on the market that I have seen that can compete with that price from a price point. And, you know, I can tell you it's been great ownership. You know, I understand Teslas lose a lot of value, so I mean, not everyone wants to spend a lot of money on these cars. But comparing them to other cars, there's really no way you can beat it. Now, as far as, you know, issues that I've had with the car, there haven't been too many issues that I've had, but I did want to quickly mention those to anybody just, you know, who's interested in possibly looking at a new, you know, ordering a Model 3 Performance or anything like that. Something to, you know, keep in mind. Now, myself, if you watch the previous video of my initial impressions, you'll see that when I got this car, there was like a little spot on the hub. I don't know. I actually don't have the clip anymore, but it was actually towards like the front fender on the driver's side. The front, like, yeah, by like the wheel well, basically. And that was actually just something that when I put in the service ticket to Tesla, they had me take it in. It was basically just like an actual, like a compound that they just basically wiped off. They waxed it and it was gone. So that was the only issue that I had paint-wise. That was fixed, free of charge. The only other issue that I did mention in that video as well was the rear deck lid. And I don't know how well this will pick that up. I can't really see exactly what that's pointing at. The deck lid by the back seat, the little, I guess you can say where like the speakers are housed in, that on the car when I first got it was kind of warped towards the back. And I didn't take that in right away because I didn't notice too many issues. There wasn't really like an issue that happened with that until probably about 3 or 4 months of me owning the car. The issues from that was that with the bass, obviously, you know, these do come with a pretty good sound system. Now, I don't have my subwoofer turned up all the way, so that's how I knew it was a problem. But with the bass, it was giving like a very strong rattle to where it was rattling up against the window. And that was pretty much something that was starting to bug me, just because even when I was listening to music very low, it would still rattle, and it was noticeable rattle. I did go ahead and I scheduled a service appointment for that at Tesla. At first, they did give me a little bit of a pushback, saying that it was something because I did have the windows tinted on this car. They said that it was something that was more than likely done by the installer, which is bullshit. Obviously, the installer didn't touch that, and not to mention it was warped already. If they continued to deny me, I was going to show them that clip. But it was warped already. So at first, they wanted me to pay for it. It wasn't going to be too much, but it was like $200, $300 that they were going to charge me. Basically because they said that I didn't, you know, make mention of it on the first day that I got the car. Now, if you've ever picked up a Tesla, you know, oftentimes before you sign off before you sign off on everything, you have to review the car, but you can only review it really from the outside. They don't give you the ability to review it from the inside until you sign on the, you know, basically the paperwork, Once the paperwork is signed, then they give you the keys and you can look on the inside of your car. I guess I could have mentioned to them at that point, but because I was excited, I did mainly review the outside, was what I paid attention to most. I didn't really look at the back of the car, which unfortunately I guess I should have. But in the long run, eventually they did, after discussing it with the shop manager, they did go ahead and they covered it at no cost to me, which was great because, it was something that, well, it came from the factory like that. I didn't want to have to, I felt like, should I say, I didn't want to have to pay $200 almost to fix that. So they covered that. That was awesome. That was the only issue I had interior-wise. Other than that, I know I've heard some people that have had issues with a lot of rattling, things like that. I haven't really noticed anything out of the ordinary that rattles. The only thing that I've noticed that rattles, kind of, and not so much, let me go ahead and zoom out to show you this. This portion right here, this will kind of rattle a little bit, but not really too much to where it's like a big inconvenience or like a big annoyance, should I say. So I really haven't gone in for that because I know they did look at that as well when they looked at the car and they fixed it. They said that was also done by the window tinner. That I think is just done due to the base, should I say. So I'm not really going to stress too much on that just because it's not really too much of an issue for me. Again, I haven't noticed really that much. Obviously when I have my music pretty loud, I don't really pay attention to that. So it's not something that I've heard that stands out. But again, I know there's some of you who have had issues with rattling and things like that. But from my perspective, I haven't had any issues with that. My biggest issue with the car, and it's not really, I guess you can say an issue, whereas more of an inconvenience and an expense, an additional cost, was that this car came with summer-only performance tires, basically, Pirellis, which obviously Pirelli is an expensive wheel. And for most climates, if you live in Southern California, Florida, or if you're in an area where you get no snow or no weather, that's not an issue. Myself, I'm in Reno, Nevada. So, here we're at about 6,000 feet, 7,000 feet, depending on what part you're in. 6,000 mostly, or lower, should I say. But I can tell you, we get a lot of snow here, and that is something that summer performance tires would not work here. Now, I know there's options, and a lot of people do this, and I guess obviously you can consider it before buying the car. But the options for a lot of people is to buy a whole new set of wheels, which at that point you have to also buy a new set of tires because these come with a 20-inch wheel. Most people decide to go with like an 18 or a 19-inch wheel. If that's an option for you and you're fine paying, like $2,000, almost $3,000, that's fine. Myself, I didn't want to have to do that just because, as I mentioned, I do have plans to get a new set of wheels. Stay tuned for those in the future. I don't want 3 sets of wheels for one car, so that to me was not going to work. Tesla has a package as well that they were selling. They're actually out until next year, or like next fall is what it says on their site. That was made for this car. It was a 19-inch with wheels as well. Came with that, the TPMS sensors, everything, which isn't bad, but the price is what stood out to me as bad. It was like $3,000. It was like $2,900 for that. After tax, it is over $3,000. I'm not doing that. So I went ahead and I'll put these for any owners or any potential owners that are interested in this. I went ahead and I did buy tires for the stock OEM wheels that come with this car. I'll go ahead and I'll leave those in the description as well because they're kind of hard to pronounce. It's like a Vredestein or Wintrac Pros, I want to say. Again, I'll leave the tire rack link in the description for anybody looking at those. It's a cheaper option. Still not cheap overall because they still cost me like $1,200, but it is cheaper than buying a whole new set of wheels and set of tires for like almost $3,000, $2,500 to $3,000. But it's unfortunate having to go that route still, just because this car here, I don't really drive. I work from home, as I've probably mentioned that in the past. But this car has less than 4,000 miles on it, so my stock tires still have less than 4,000 miles on them. Brand new tires, normally under most conditions, would not need to be replaced, except for the fact that obviously you living in an area where it gets cold and you get snow, summer tires are not going to cut it. I wish, they offered like a package or the ability, should I say, to instead of going with a summer tire, going with like an all-season tire for people that live in areas like this. That would be awesome. I understand you don't get as good of performance with an all-season tire, and that's why they went with the summer performance tires. But, it'd be for someone buying a brand new car would be a lot less upfront cost because, if you buy your car during the winter time, basically you're buying the car and almost immediately having to replace the tires for winter tires. So if, Tesla offered an option like that, that'd be cool. Even if it's like a smaller set, I know I've seen for like the Model S and the Model Y, I believe you get different tire options. and wheel options. That'd be kind of cool if they offered that for the Model 3 Performance. That way you can choose. I mean, you can choose what you want based on your needs, based on your region or where you live. That'd be awesome if they offered something like that. But that's mainly been my biggest concern, or my biggest complaint with the 2024 Model 3 Performance, is the tires, because again, you know, it's an unneeded cost, or an unneeded cost in my opinion. You know, they could have included the all seasons and I would have been fine. I can tell you this winter tires that I switched to, the few times that it snowed here, I've gotten to use them and they handle awesome. The all-wheel drive system in this car is great. I can tell you no issues with that. It's gotten icy here a few times and no issues even doing that. You know, even if the car does start to slide a bit, the car recognizes that and it corrects itself almost immediately. So no complaints from the all-wheel drive system. My main complaint, again, is with the tires. Having to buy new tires on a car that has less than 4,000 miles on it does suck. But yeah, that's been my initial impressions. You know, mainly I have nothing but good things to say. You know, charging the car, you know, I'll quickly touch on that. I know I should have probably touched on that earlier, but that really isn't a plus or a minus to me. When I first got the car, I didn't have an at-home charger. So, I mean, that wasn't an issue because, you know, I could still go to a supercharger. I did quickly find out that going to a supercharger rather than having an in-home charger was not going to be worth the cost. So I did have someone install a level 2 charger at my house. I live in an older home, so I can't have one of the newer or more, I guess you could say, quicker chargers installed. But even the level 2 charger for my use is still fine. I can get home, you know, at night with like 30-40% and still have it topped off at 80% by the time I wake up ready to go the next day. So that hasn't been an issue, and that was less than $1,000 install. Now I did go ahead and I just bought the charger from Tesla. That was like what, $200. And so I mean, you know, initially if you're getting into a, you know, at home charger, your initial, I guess you could say, cost is like $1,000, $1,000 plus. There's some states where the state will even pay for you to have it done professionally for free. That's cool. Nevada, unfortunately, doesn't do that. Nevada sucks. But so that hasn't been an issue. I can't say that as a pro or con because that to me isn't bad. Now I could tell you when you do get at home charging, it does become very cost efficient based on where you live. Where I live, you know, I could top it off and it's per charge less than like $2. So very cheap. If you charge off peak hours, go ahead and look into, you know, your energy or your electric company for that. They can tell you all of the information needed. And pretty much they list it on the website. Some will even give you discounted rates, you know, for having an electric car. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, that's my overall impressions on this car. I love it. I'm having a great time with this. I have gotten some things on, you know, on the car as far as, I won't say mods because you really can't mod this car, but I've added some things to this car feature-wise that have made it better, in my opinion. You know, if you want to watch that video, you know, actually, I'll go ahead and I'll do that video. So I'll go ahead and I'll do the video on what I've done to this car. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Of course, as I mentioned, if you haven't hit like, if you haven't hit subscribe yet, I would greatly appreciate it. I'll also go ahead and as of now, through the end of the year, Tesla is doing the referral program to where depending on what kind of Tesla you pick up, if you use my referral code, I'll go ahead and leave that there. You do get from $1,000 plus off your car. I think it's $1,000 for the Model Y, $1,500 for the Model 3, $1,500 plus for the Model S and X, obviously because those are more expensive. I believe up to $2,000. If you're interested in that, I'll leave that in the description as well. Other than that, guys, it's been your boy, Sergi J. I'm checking out. Everybody have a good day. Have good holidays. We'll see you next year. Take it easy, guys.